pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tom Hooper.
Present.
Jack Cutting.
Here.
Sabrina Ford. Here. Lawrence Myers.
Here.
Jan Grine.
Here.
And Richard Grimminger.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Are there any additions or changes to the agenda? Move to approve.
Move the agenda.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
You have a copy of the October 24th minutes. You review those and see if there are any additions or changes, please.
Thanks, my job is here.
That's it.
I've got to do 2 months. Went through any additions or changes. If not, please take a motion to approve.
A motion to approve.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. You have a financial report in front of you. We have a year-to-date summary on the lodging tax receipts summarized by month. Including the first taxes of fiscal year 2018. We also have the transactions of deposits and bills paid on a separate piece of paper. If there are any questions, additions, or corrections, please review those. If there are no changes, again, we just a motion to approve.
So moved.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any old business that we discussed before the board?
I thought they might like to see some examples of...
We can do that one.
Okay.
I think that's the
New
big down
business.
here. Now, under new business, we have some expenses that we need to work through. Two of these expenses are renewing of the search engine marketing and the rat card distribution, and these are they're listed in their cost per month on the paper. Mad Media approximately $330, and rat card distribution $220. If you look through the financial report on 10/31, Mad Media was $330.19, and then it was $440. I'm sorry, it was $274.81 the following month. And the $330 is basically an average that from our hits, and it seems to be our budget. And that has been remaining constant. And so we don't have to deal with this on a meeting-by-meeting basis. If this is an ongoing expense, we could maybe approve that going forward for the next quarter. We wouldn't have to present that and take time in the meeting. This is something that we've been doing for several years and doesn't seem to be changing. And if there is a motion for that and to approve this expense.
So moved for the quarter.
For the Mad Media.
For the Mad Media.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Also, the CMT rat card distribution, we will have, that's an ongoing expense of $220 a month. And if you look at the financial report, we paid it on 11/30 for 2 months. And we can also, and that's not going to change because we approved the extension of the rat card program, and that will be just a monthly incurring expense. And if we could approve that for the next quarter, that would also save us bringing that up at each meeting.
So you want both of them in one motion?
Well, no, that would be, we already did the search engine
Okay.
marketing. This would be
Okay.
for the rat card distribution, since they are separate line items. We need
Okay.
to deal with each of those
All right,
separately.
all right.
So if we want to continue with that, and then ongoing, we can go ahead and make a motion for that for the next quarter.
Motion to move on that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll go to the bottom item, which is reprinting of the rat cards. Once every year or so, we will be reprinting rat cards. This is for a quantity of 15,000 of them. It's a one-time expense of $550. And Sandra has brought a copy of the rat card, and
In case anyone hasn't.
when we're going to be changing the picture on the front of it to a crop version of the picture here, if we want to pass that around. It's a picture of one of the historic buildings with Jack and Mickey standing in
Oh my goodness.
You'll be 15.
It'll add a little extra color than just a lot of that blue. It'll bring in that green, and it should be a little more eye-popping.
Well, and it updates. We had a photo session in the fall, and so the goal from a marketing standpoint was to have some fresh photos there, so.
And that will be also incorporated in a lot of the other advertising, so that we can improving that branding, and so that, a lot of the advertising going forward, either through tourism or through this body, we'll have that type of branding on it.
It'll just take up the same size.
The rat card is a standard that size. That's what goes into all the hotels and motels.
But the photo.
The photo.
The photo will be cropped to fit into that picture. Probably crop the edges, and and it'll fit into that same size.
And how often do they change that photo? Or how often are we expected to?
Well, it depends on how long it takes them to go through 15,000
15,000,
pictures. It's
right.
been about a year since we had this one out, and then we had another one before that for about a year. So we try to freshen it up. You can see on this one, we added that we were now pending as a national park. I mean, depending on how long it takes for the proofing process, we
Yeah.
might be able
You
to say.
might have that approved by the time this
recently
actually
approved.
gets printed.
Right.
So, we have a motion to approve the expenditure of $550 for reprinting 15,000 rat cards.
I will make that motion.
And I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, the other thing on this list is a renewal of an eastbound sign on Highway B, which is a billboard that is facing the people coming in from wine country on B, coming towards Interstate 55.
I have a handout for that. This is, you remember at the last meeting, we talked about this, because this is a separate company than we use for the billboards on Interstate 55. This is, I know you already have a copy. This is a company called Jansco Outdoor, and the period started on 12/1, but I spoke with him and let him know that this group was going to be meeting, so he was okay to hold off for us until we can talk about that.
Well, I think at the last meeting, we only talked about billboards being placed along Interstate 55. This was not brought up.
Right, those are, yeah, those are completely separate from this one. That was my point. This is a billboard that the TTC asked to be added to capture all those people coming from wine country, so that they would know that if they would just next time leave a little time to see St. Genevieve, they could come across the interstate. Because a lot of people come and go to wine country and never even come into St. Genevieve. So this was one of the strategies of the TTC to get additional foot traffic into St. Genevieve.
Have we paid this before?
Yes.
I would have to check on that. Being the treasurer, I would like to check to see documentation if this committee has paid this before.
Sure.
I looked
I
in last year's
personally-
expense, I could not find it. I could not find that $1,800 expense for this
Okay.
on
Because
TTC.
my
Well, it was
personal
this
opinion-
committee that asked for it, so.
My personal opinion, I think billboards are a thing of the past. I just recently traveled to like Kansas City, and there are so many blank billboards, like, you know, ready for advertising. I just think that we could take that money, that $1,800, and spend it elsewhere.
Okay.
That's just my opinion.
Well, we certainly don't have to. I mean, you're right, we have other things that we could spend it on.
But I would like
You
to
want to just
check,
table it?
I would like to check documentation to see if this committee has paid this billboard before.
Okay. Megan, do you have the, I mean, I can get it for you after the meeting, but I'm just wondering,
Well,
do you have
if you
the-
check with Sue Schweiss, she should
Sue
have all
Schweiss is who I have
the
to check with?
the
If you
treasurer.
just call tomorrow, I
Okay.
can get you with Sue.
So we'll just table this?
And we table that to our January meeting. I think that goes to any other old business, or any other, let me check, let me look at the, get back to my agenda here. Okay. Last meeting, we discussed the possibility of a number of advertising opportunities that we might want to look at with this commission. And I had several conversations and a nice long meeting with Sandra, a couple meetings going over this, and we looked through and found a couple of places that we felt would be, it's on the back of the individual bills, that would be things that we could look at that have been successful for other advertising campaigns. And most of the advertising campaigns done through tourism have been done just before very large tourism events and things within the community. And this would be a possibility for us to get St. Genevieve out there to more people in different times of the year when we don't have major events. And we were talking about a possible campaign for a month of romance for Valentine's Day. Because we have a lot of these facilities here, the bed and breakfasts are open, the stores are open, and it's a kind of an underutilized thing that we have here. We have all these facilities and not a lot of guests. And maybe by putting the ads, that advertorial, and we've seen that, and we have copies of that to go around in the Webster Kirkwood Times. Also West Magazine, which we've been actually seeing some results in our shop from people bringing that in, were two things that we really felt would be very good for that, as well as budgeting some money for some Facebook posts specifically for that month. Also, another optional thing that we can do is St. Louis Public Radio and one of their talk radio stations doing an ad campaign for that to try to build on that holiday weekend. We also know that in that first, especially that first part of February, we always get some kind of snow in that first week or two of February, but it's trying to have that campaign not be just for Valentine's Day, but for the whole month. And that's an underutilized time that we have here. And our advertising can only be spent on times of the year where we don't have full occupancy in our bed and breakfast and hotels. So we're going to try to, my thoughts with Sandra were to find places during the year that had like a 45-day kind of dead spot, and use some advertorials, use some different advertising, maybe use radio advertising to fill those holes to try to get people here between our bigger events. And we can try that and see how that works, and do it not necessarily in as big of, we did a full page in the Webster Groves, and advertorial was beautifully done and very successful.
These are examples
But
of
they're,
those.
and some of those, they're a little expensive, and we thought that maybe doing a possible half page might be a way to get a pretty good impact that time of year, because of course we know it's weather dependent.
In both of those? The half page?
In different ones of those, yes.
Okay.
And that's what we talked about. We have pricing here for full page and half page and even quarter page for those two publications. And Sandra's going to pass around some of the previous advertising, but also you can get an idea of the scale of the ad that would be there. And of course, we'll be bringing in there are some new photos that, like the new picture. There'll be some of those new pictures that we might be using in some of these ads, and trying to make sure that those get out to where they belong.
Okay, so I think everyone at the table has probably been here before when I've talked about either South County Times or Webster Kirkwood Times or the West End Word. They're all owned by the same company. Probably the best known of those is the Webster Kirkwood Times. This is the full-page advertorial that ran in, that one happens to be Webster Kirkwood Times. This is the same one. I know you've seen this multiple times, so let's pass it over there. This one is from South County Times. It's the same full-page format. You have room for a large photo, some content that appears to be an article. It's actually sponsored content, and then a couple of more destination photos and a small upcoming events ad. So that, if we wanted to do like changing up the content, that was like a fall road trip kind of an article.
And we were thinking that the events would be on the calendar, since there are not as many in the spring, is to carry over up to the Scottish Festival, that first week of April, as far as the calendar of events.
So start it when, like in
Well,
October?
we would like to get this. Well, we want to get out there before Valentine's Day. We want to get this out in
So
that first
early
week of
February.
February.
Okay.
And there's some deadlines coming up for content and publications and securing that space.
And then you're saying like run all the events up to April?
Right,
on
which is
that?
where it says the calendar of events, where it's got that, and have those calendar events for April, and then we'll pick up another advertising campaign like this, maybe with similar publications, different publications, see how the results are, and I would like to see if we could put together maybe 4 campaigns like this over the course of the year to fill those little holes.
Okay.
And then we make sure that calendar event is in each one of them to show what the next 45 to 60 days of things that are going on within St. Genevieve.
Okay, but this is like the full page
Yeah,
one, so this is like 1986.
Do you have an
Correct.
example of a half page?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. So the half page is more like what we do in the springtime when we participated in it's kind of like their summer fun issue. And then this one has, okay, so this is the full page again. Full page, half of it is St. Genevieve. So we have a branding ad across here with a photo, our keywords: historic home tours, bed and breakfast inns, antique shopping, wineries, microbreweries, art galleries, and dining. Those are our keywords. And then at the bottom, this is in May when we do our summer travel issue with them. So at the bottom, all of the shops and lodgings and organizations are able to choose to participate. So there's usually about 4 of them that do. So at the bottom here, the last time we had the Inn St. Jem Bed and Breakfast, Downtown Renewal with their events ad, Chalmette Vineyards and Winery, and then the Chamber of Commerce did their summer music series, because that has dates in it all summer long.
Right, so this is a half page split between tourism and then 4 individual
Right.
pieces,
Right.
covering a half a page. And we could, if we decided to fund a half a page with that, offer businesses in town an opportunity to add to that so we had a bigger presence on the page.
Oh, if we just did the
If we
half,
decided to
yeah.
do the
so-
half.
Yeah, exactly, and do away with all the little ads.
Right, but this would be a whole half page of that.
Because this has a lot more.
It's got-
impact
right.
than
So
that.
it's,
That
so
was
it's,
all
so it's
broken
trying to
out.
figure out the best impact for the best dollar.
And also, these are ran, it looks like from September to October, like a month, these will be floating around.
They go in a special insert, like the Sunday inserts and stuff, into their, and they keep, they're partial magazines that people keep on their
Right, that's what I'm
tables and things
saying.
for a month or a
Like-
month and a half.
Right, that's what I'm
So
saying.
that's what I wanted to do, if we get it out there for that, the
So-
whole month of
Not to be
romance.
confusing, this would run one time at the beginning of February.
Right.
Okay? Not
And then it would
floating
sit around, like on someone's table, like at a
Oh,
doctor's
yeah,
office
they-
or whatever, for
hang
like
on
a
to them,
month.
Sure,
Right.
yeah.
Because it says here September to October. Oh, that's only 1 week.
Right,
Yeah, the
but
29th to the
that just
5th.
happens to be when this particular ad
Okay.
was distributed.
Right, right.
And we'll target ours for that week before
So
Valentine's
these
Day.
papers come out weekly.
It's a weekly paper, right.
Weekly papers.
But do you think that's enough time? If it's only a week before Valentine's? I mean, it's 2 weeks
It would,
before.
so
but-
it would, yeah, it would come out, I think the issue date is maybe February 2nd. So it would come out the early part of February and be promoting, you're trying to decide what you're gonna do. You don't make your plans necessarily just for Valentine's Day weekend. You might say, honey, I'm giving us a getaway weekend, and we could do it any time in the spring that you want. That's why we would have all the upcoming events listed.
Well, my personal opinion is like what he said, this is way more, and it's
Right.
only $836 more.
Right, and that's what we need to decide, if, we need to decide how much money we want to spend. We have spent in the past on the billboards approximately $14,000. So it would be, if we decided to do that quarterly, a quarter of that would be about $4,000. It's practically about where we could spend that $4,000 the best between these advertorials, advertising, Facebook posts, and possible radio ads.
Right, I
So
think that
so that's the,
these sorts of things reach more people than
Right.
billboards down the highway.
right, and
these sort of
that was
things.
kind of, our concept was to try this as an additional tool that we have, those billboards are paid through
Right,
next year, so we have the advantage of having all those tools in our arsenal this year.
And to be clear, it's based on that full-page advertorial that I ran in a program last fall. That was run through my regular tourism budget, not the TTC. But Tom saw it and liked it and thought the TTC might like to do more of that
I
kind of
like
thing.
this too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea.
Right.
And I'm not opposed to the half page, although that half page, it's just too broken up.
Right, but do a
It's
half,
cluttery.
Yeah, it looks just like.
right, but
ads.
shrinking that to a half page and trying to keep the same percentage of photo and
Right.
advertorial content. And that's just a matter of creating an ad
Because
that
it's like
will work
whenever
in
you
that
go to a
half-page
restaurant and
format.
if the menu's all cluttered, you can't really pick.
Right.
So whenever people look at that
Right.
page and it's all cluttered, they're not really gonna pay
Right.
attention to it.
And the only question to the board is, do we want to do that, put that full page ad out there and hope that we have good weather and that it brings more people in? We don't know that, this is a new thing for us. The tourism has done it, but more for later on in the spring and the fall when we have more established tourism.
Right.
We have all the infrastructure here, we have the hotels, we have the bed and breakfast, we have the shops, we just need to bring the people in.
Yep.
And this may be one of the tools that we can use to bring more people.
And I realize this is a lot of information to take in, but I'm going to cruise right on into. So the other publication that we just started, so these are all very targeted, geo-targeted publications in St. Louis. So you can picture where Webster Kirkwood Times is and you know kind of what that covers. This is West News Magazine. This covers kind of everything outside St. Louis 270. like Baldwin, Manchester, Chesterfield, St. Albans.
Over to St. Peter's, that whole wraparound area.
So West News Magazine, actually one of our visitors from that area brought this to my attention and said, you know, this is kind of our neighborhood paper, so to speak. And so in their holiday wish book, we did a 1/4 page branding ad with St. Genevieve. And so we had a weekend getaway trip makes a great gift, you know, because it's their holiday gift thing. So we had our Explore St. Genevieve ad in here, and we got really good placement with it. We had people come into the Welcome Center saying that they had seen this and they'd been meaning to get to St. Genevieve, that kind of thing. So again, this is a number 2 as far as suggested placement for print ads. We could go with a full page on this with an advertorial format that would be similar to the one.
It's just a slightly smaller page. So the half page in the one publication will be approximately the same size as the full page in the other one.
That's a 1/4 page.
That's a
And she's got
quarter
a
right there.
previous
Yes,
1/4 page.
Exactly. So.
And all of these have great readership. They've got, I don't have those numbers. There's $780,000 people receiving some of these. So we're talking about a very large opportunity.
I like that idea.
I do too.
I think it's a way to go.
And this is, I don't want to overstep and spend too much money that time of year when weather can be a little iffy, but at the same time, I think we can establish a way that we can get this out there, and that repetition, supplementing in what Sandra's already doing with regular tourism money.
Well, and repeat messages are important.
Yeah.
Even if they don't act on this at February, it might get them, when they see that other message in May, it might get them to say, oh my God, we never did that, we need to do it, you know.
And
I'm just-
where are these magazines, like in front of stores, or where can you get one of these? Where can people pick them up
So these are
at?
mailed directly to the households
Oh, it
in
is,
those
okay.
areas, and then they have bonus distributions like in coffee shops and
Okay.
restaurants, cafes, that kind of thing. And doctor's offices.
And
Right,
here's
so that-
West Magazine, that's got their map of distribution there.
So of this one, the second one that I showed you, I'll just pass this around. So we talked about Manchester, Baldwin, Chesterfield, St. Albans. It goes all the way down to Eureka and Pacific. It doesn't cross over the river, but for those that like a more visual.
And that's this other smaller magazine.
So are we deciding either or both?
Well,
What?
my thought is,
Yeah.
as the chairman, is we have approximately $4,000 that we can spend per quarter if we decide to do 4 different ad campaigns. And I don't feel really comfortable right now reaching beyond that, especially early in the year. But I think it would be worth it to explore these and generate some advertising dollars. We have the money. We can spend it on these, see how they work, and between those and some targeted Facebook posts might be the best way to start this early spring coming up. And then we'll revisit it, 3 to 4 more times this year, but try to develop these ads. And once we develop the ads, then it's real easy of figuring out where we want to budget the money, and then and repeat that same ad. You change the calendar to represent what's going on in that next 45 to 60 days.
Well, I totally agree that it should be in the spring, because that is our slow season as well as at the hotel. We need to get people in here.
Right, and that's a great place for us to start. We can learn how to do the advertising. We can learn how the distribution works,
Right.
how the money flows, how the billing goes. So, and that's a time when Sandra has time to help us develop these ads for those publications. And we felt that these were the 2 strongest publications that we looked at this time.
And we already have a presence with them. Their audience has seen the St. Genevieve message. I mean, they saw it in a strong way in the fall. So this would be following up with previous communication. It would be repeat exposure for that audience to our message.
And these publications already have a website, and that includes web content for us. So they can actually look us up. If they see that, they can go to that publication online, and this advertisement will be repeated online.
Again, just to touch on the big picture for only a moment, because I know this is way more information they're used to getting. So our integrated marketing communications program goes on all year. Typically, this group has taken on big picture, big ticket items, not getting involved in this level. I welcome your involvement, but I only want to also bring out this example too. So Missouri Life magazine, in their January issue, has a special about bed and breakfasts all over the state of Missouri. Of course, the ones here in St. Genevieve are some of the most well-known bed and breakfasts anywhere in the state. And so last year, we participated in a special section. The information was sent to all the B&Bs. Only the ones that wanted to participate did. There were 4 of them that participated last year, and there will be 4 again this year. And so I'm just going to hold this up. So this is like a magazine spread, a mock-up of what their article is going to look like. And you can see it's Guide to Missouri Bed and Breakfasts, Boutique Hotels, Inns, and more. So we're going to do a 2-column section in this, and I'm going to have St. Genevieve information across the top. And the 4 B&B properties that wanted to participate will be listed here. And so this, again, then someone might live in St. Albans, might get, Missouri Life magazine. They might see this in January, and then they might get this in February and go, oh yeah, we want to, so it's building on that message and having it come across in multiple points is part of what an integrated marketing communication campaign does. So this would be giving additional resources. Your actions here tonight would help build that program.
And also that when people are sitting there in the doctor's office, they're flipping through, they see that ad and see the way that we put in the logo and things at the top, that see that continuity, and that counts towards that hearing something or seeing something a number of times before they act on it. We're building that that rapport with them. So if if you guys want to take a few minutes and discuss this, and then think about the size and scope that we want to do for this time, because part of it is we need to be able to start developing these ads and get them in to meet their publication deadlines.
And which committee does that?
I handle that.
You handle all that?
Yeah, and I'll be proofreading and looking at those as they come through.
Yeah, I was wondering if we had like
and
a
if there's
proofreading team or.
Yeah, and there is a print team that Sandra works with to look through those as well. Your ad people.
But that's for brochures.
Brochures, okay. But yes, we will. And part of it is that we have most of these. A lot of these are already in format, and they just need to be cut and paste. Update all the contacts. Update the calendars. And the official calendar is almost out.
Yes, actually, I have a copy of the events and festivals for 2018. This is something, again, that the Welcome Center reaches out to all of these event planners all throughout the community. And we put this list together. Megan will remember this.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons that we wanted, because of the way things lay out, there's not the February calendar, when we add the art walk in, there's a little lean for the calendar going into this advertising, which is why we suggested that the Scottish Festival be the end of it in the calendar for these first ads.
The end of April, right?
So you would have 1, 2, 3 events in February, well, 4 events in February with the art walk. Then you would have the May art walk and then the Scottish Festival. So that would be 6 events altogether.
Yeah.
If we can fit it, we might try to go up to
see how the typeface, how it lays out in spacing. Might be able to go all the way down to the end of April. Don't know. And that way we could have that calendar of events in each of our advertising that fits that time period, and then we'll be looking at the next body of time where there's holes in the advertising, that the integrated advertising campaign, that we can maybe finance and fill another section like this.
So to help reach this decision that you're going to have tonight, rather than take hours to review this, really. I heard someone say, and it was an excellent point, that on the Webster Kirkwood Times, for the increased amount between the half page and the full page, it's not that much extra, really, and you get a lot
Well,
of
the
impact.
impact's so much better.
Yeah,
It
the
is.
impact is there, yeah.
It's like, but bam,
Yeah.
you're St. Genevieve.
It looks like
The
an
other
article
one
as
was
opposed
clutter.
to just a bunch of ads.
Right.
Yep.
So you might want to consider at least doing a full page on number 1 there. And I think that on West News Magazine, if we did a half page in here, I think that we can get a pretty good impact from that. Because I've been talking to them about the National Park Service and
Yeah.
the legislation, and maybe they would give us an article above it in conjunction, and we could fill that space with more.
Or maybe with this paid advertising now, when we become a national park, they will run an article about that.
Well,
Right.
that's what I. yeah.
Right, but even if the timing isn't right,
Mhm. Oh, right, if it's too soon, yeah.
it's too soon.
So you might consider a half page on that one. And then, when Tom and I first met about this, I was going to suggest about a $100 geo-targeting budget for Facebook, and he said, well, why don't we really bump it up and stretch it out over 6 weeks? So I feel like with that suggestion for the $500 stretched over 6 weeks, we could do a lot of geo-targeting on Facebook, and it can go, and we already do this, but we target very specifically down to demographics. We can target down to even residential areas that we want to.
And then we get the input back on that and the number of clicks with it. We can then
We do
use
get a
use
report.
that research to target the next group.
It's nice to have that, and you don't get that with many other things.
And so that would be the 98, and 198, $1,968, $86, I'm sorry, $1,095 for the half page in West Magazine, and the $500 in internet marketing.
Of the two magazines, which one has the wider distribution?
Take that.
That
this one?
That one has slightly more bodies.
It does, okay.
I think it's almost 100,000 more. No, it doesn't.
You're thinking about
All the
the
other-
spring
That's right.
magazine.
3581 Tom.
Yeah, because I think that one there was the one with all the counties, the big area, but I didn't have a map or anything for the Webster Kirkwood
Yeah.
times how big that is, like, with South
Yeah,
County. Do we have that
We
information?
have advertised in it before, and of course, I've got all this at my office. I didn't bring everything, but I'm going to say, if I can remember, that it's in about the 80,000, maybe 70 to 80,000.
I think 70 to 80. And the other one was 780,000.
No.
No.
it was a-
Oh, that's a
That's the-
statewide program.
Because if we're going to do a full page in one and a half page in the other, I would recommend we do the full page in the one with the wider circulation.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I agree.
So why don't we do this? Because they're almost a flip-flop of each other. May I suggest that you approve up to a dollar amount, and then I can email and clarify which one has X thousand of distribution versus the other one, and we'll go with the larger distribution, the full page, and the smaller
Absolutely.
distribution, the half page.
That would be,
I
I would
agree.
recommend.
Okay,
So it's 3505 for one and 3581 for the other, if you add in the $500 budget for Facebook.
so do you want to say, what was it, 35?
3581 would be the maximum, would be the full page in Webster Kirkwood Time, half page in West Magazine, plus the $500 Facebook.
So that's, what if you do it the other way, though? What if it's,
It's
this is a higher.
3505.
Okay.
But we don't have enough to do Facebook and two full pages.
Well,
Oh, well,
I would like experiment with the Facebook, and it's just one of the, I was putting out the $4,000 as a budgetary constraint. We have funds that we could spend, it's trying to spend them as
No, I
wisely
was
as we
just
can.
wondering
And if we
within
want
that
to
4,000.
experiment and do that full page with either one, it would be an additional
About 500.
$750.
Is there anyone in that magazine that has a full page ad to where we could see it? Because like, what would you run on that as a full page? Would you still do it kind of like this?
It
Like
would be
3 or
a
4
combination of
pictures?
text, like an article, photos, and.
The calendar?
Right, the calendar, which is.
Basically like this, but in that.
Mhm,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be 43.43 for a full page in each of them, plus $500 for Facebook marketing.
I think that's money well spent.
Was that a motion?
Well, any further, any discussion on that?
I think it's a good, I agree, I think it's money. put in the
Well, it's
right-
something new, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not that much more than the original
Right,
budget.
it's
Right,
not.
yeah.
Okay, and, well, if somebody would like to make a motion to that,
So moved, we do a full page in both Webster Kirkwood Times and West Magazine, and include $500 budgeted over 6 weeks for Facebook.
I second that,
all in favor?
definitely.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And you said that was 43.43?
If my
Math is
Long-
kind of
long
on there. I
addition
don't
is
have a
correct.
calculator.
I'll do it real quick.
I would think it'd be under 2. It's not 2.
No.
It's
43.41
Right, I was gonna say
actually.
it's
41,
yeah,
okay.
40.
Actually, yep, there's the one.
Yep.
Okay, and to be clear, we would not be doing any radio in conjunction with this. If I have any budget on my other side of the marketing budget, maybe I can throw in some
Supplement.
radio in there.
Well, that kind of gives us a real nice package.
Oh,
for-
absolutely.
For this,
Absolutely.
and that,
Okay, so on the other side then is the last thing that we needed to consider.
and this is a ad placement in the 2018 Missouri Vacation Guide. This has been, in the past, always funded through tourism 100%. Usually with some funding grant from the state, through this, basically through the tourism plus some of the state tourism money.
Yes, so when Tom said some of it comes through the state, usually 50% of our ad has come through the state tourism budget. And in this fiscal year, the state's budget was cut. And so after they approved, our projects, which for me included the spring and the fall newspaper insert for the Missouri Travel Guide, they came back and they cut it. So we did the fall, but we had to cut out the spring guide out of the budget. The 1881 that you see on your list at the bottom where it says St. Genevieve ad placement in spring 2018 Missouri Vacation Guide, if we do a 1/16 page ad, I still have my half of that state contract left. I have 1881. So if the TTC wanted to continue our participation in this by supplementing half of that budget, then it would be,
Why don't you go ahead and pass the ad around?
Yeah,
as
can
well?
we see an example?
it should be on the back of your,
Is that what this is?
It's actually, and there's a color graphics on the back. It's a
yeah.
little bit bigger than a business card size ad here, which includes a number they can circle. The only one thing I didn't ask you before is what is the result? Are you on your mailbacks on these?
That's on here.
Yeah.
So
So-
that's the 1/16
That's a 1/16 ad, and if you look at the one right next to it, that is Cape Girardeau, I think, on that example.
No singles adventure pass.
So you're getting
No, right underneath it is
Oh, right.
Cape Girardeau.
Okay, yeah.
That one's twice as big as ours, so that's a 1/8
Yeah,
size
yeah.
ad. So that's the other figure right below that.
Oh, okay.
So you get approximately 1,041 leads from that, from this advertising last year.
Right. So I feel like we actually get a good amount of leads from these. Like when this hits, our phone starts ringing at the Welcome Center. They start, contacting us with leads. We follow up. You can see on your sheet there that the strongest markets that this goes to, if you flip that over and look at those colored bars, St. Louis metro area, Kansas City metro area, and Chicago, including major metro areas in Illinois. Those are the top 3 bars. So it's prime territory for us. And these are just the leads that come to us for St. Genevieve. I mean, Cape Girardeau gets leads, Hannibal gets leads. Anybody that participates in it gets the leads that come as a result of their ad placement.
And how many times a year does Missouri Travel Guide print?
It's 2 times a year in the spring and the fall.
Okay, and this is just
for the spring.
once?
That is, yeah, so normally I put this in my grant application to the state, and it was in there, but then they cut their budget was cut, so they cut our budget. So we could not be in it this coming spring, but I would like to be in it, and if the TTC wanted to help, we could participate at the same level with the 1/16 size for a commitment of $1,882. Tom's suggestion was to go to twice as big, which of course I would love to, but
Well, it depends on,
pretty
budget, we've just committed a bunch of funds for some other things. So
Yes.
it's a matter of being good stewards with the taxpayers' money.
Right.
So it's a matter of what, we have a board here of 5 people, and we need to put our brains together and see if we have the funds, we want to fund this. If spending that money to get approximately this last spring was there 1,080, 1,041 leads were generated by this program last spring.
And this is the distribution here.
That's the total distribution, and that's the total leads to date is that 7,800 is represented in those leads shown.
Those are just the top 10 leads. Okay.
Yeah. So they're lead areas. So, it's the, as a body, is this something that we want to participate in? And does it generate, boots on the ground and heads in beds?
So if we don't participate, St. Genevieve doesn't end up in it?
we would not be in there in the spring.
That's okay.
We were just in there in the fall, and just so you know, like fall year-to-date so far, St. Louis, we've got 680 leads, Chicago, almost 500, and Kansas City, almost 500 from this one. This was the latest one for the fall.
So almost 1,500 out of that one.
And where can people pick these up at? Where are they at?
These are in, like, so the St. Louis Post-Dispatch would have this included as an insert,
Okay.
and all...
It has a very wide distribution. It's got, 3.3 million.
Yeah, so these are all placed in newspapers. There's also, they do, the state does search engine marketing based on this, like boost it, they boost it, and they also include it in 126,000 emails. Excuse me, 105,000 emails. And
how long is this available? I mean, is it just a one-time shot for spring, or is it?
It happens every spring. The leads come to us starting April 1st through basically August 1st on the spring insertion. Because, like Sabrina pointed out, these hang around for a while. It would be in the St. Louis paper and the Kansas City paper and, you know, all these other newspapers, and then people, I know it, some things hang on my coffee table for years. For better or worse.
How often do they come out in the papers? That's another question I had.
It's one time in those
Just
papers.
one
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
but
So
twice
everybody
a
kind of
year.
looks forward to the vacation day. Oh,
Right, so they pull it out
So
and
once
keep
in the
it.
spring, once in the fall.
yeah.
Yes.
And it covers the whole thing is Missouri travel, correct?
Yes, this whole vacation guide is about Missouri.
So we really need to be in it.
Yeah.
I think
Oh,
so.
yes.
You can't go
I
without
agree.
it.
That's the route you're going anyway. You
Yeah, we
gotta,
need
you
to-
almost gotta go.
Right, we need to be in it, but at the same time, we just, you know,
It's
and
like-
it's an itty bitty little ad, but at the
It is
same
a
time,
bitty little
it gets
ad.
us out there.
It is itty bitty, that's what I was thinking.
And then that's what's hard to do is, you know, is trying to figure out a way to increase our presence there and do it with, and be fiscally responsible.
Right.
But we spend, you know,
Yeah, because that is awful small. I didn't even really notice it. It didn't pop out at me, so.
Partly is the placement this time is really poorly with that that Adventure Pass, just,
Yes.
it kind of,
I think this actually helps draw your eye to it because there's no competing image there.
although this ad is not a very good ad because it looks like two.
Right.
This one.
yeah, just the
is
structure of that,
dynamic.
ad, that civil rights ad
And
is
this
just-
one's very well done.
it
So-
looks like two different ads, and that's, the structure of the ad is really poor.
I like ads that look like that.
Yeah,
Colored
exactly.
and
Rather
they
than
pop
like
out
this
at
is
you.
Yeah.
really nice.
Yeah, I'm afraid the
Like,
graphics.
I noticed Six Flags right away
Yeah.
on this paper.
So
More so than this.
The contract for this is due on January 12th. We can do some further discussion, and if we need to call a special meeting to vote on this particular thing, we need to have some more discussion on it. If people are, you know, not ready to commit and do, maybe evaluate where these funds should go. And that's kind of up to you guys.
Well, if we increase it to an eighth, we would need almost $4,000.
Yeah, that's a
Correct,
lot.
That
correct.
is a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yes, I think we stick with,
Go eighth.
we have to at least do it.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, and right, and that's, you know, if we can have at least that same presence, that's, you know, that's not a bad thing.
Well, maybe next year you do it different. You don't know.
Well,
You don't
hopefully
know.
funding will come through from the state, and this will not fall on our laps,
Yeah.
Right.
because this is something that the city tourism tends to handle this, and
Well-
has in the past, and this is a fluke.
Well, and we didn't participate in this program until 3 years ago. So whoever said earlier that, you know, you have to be in it, I mean, it's almost like you're not a player if
Yeah,
you're not
exactly.
in
You
there.
have to be
So,
in
Yeah.
Right, and so that's,
I can also see, sometimes they have limitations on, it has to be like a photo with X number of words below it, but I can ask them if they can incorporate color behind the words so that it, you know, so it
out.
pops out, like we have a
Yeah,
bigger
yeah.
Yes.
stamp
yeah,
to
so
it.
almost like this, when you do like a Branson where it's got a color behind it,
Like the half of this, that pops out.
Yeah.
yeah.
Right,
If
yeah,
we had
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, like this has got, color behind it. So, well, if anyone wants to do a motion, we
Yeah.
just we may need to watch our shekels as things that go further in the year. But if we get more boots on the ground, we'll have more money to spend.
I motion we go with the 1/16.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
Is that ours, or did you get one of these? Because I'd like to keep this.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's no phone number on here. There's not a phone number. That's my only,
Oh, we'll find out.
but the fall one, you know, but this particular one doesn't have a phone number.
Yeah, they have it.
Yeah, Yeah, so.
Is it a certain size of photo? See,
Yeah,
they don't
it
have a
is.
phone number down.
But other ones, they get different content. Well, great. Well, any other things, Sandra?
No,
about
this
these
is very
advertisements?
helpful, very helpful. Because, you know, we couldn't have participated in that program without that, so. I mean, we could have, but it would have meant not doing something else, you know.
Okay. Any other citizens to be heard from? Anyone else that has any business in front of the commission?
I just brought one other thing. I just brought one other thing, and since I made the copies, this is just a report on the November search engine marketing and the most commonly clicked AdWord groups. And then this is from basically a longevity thing for the last year and the year before. So I'll pass these out. So you can't say you know your copies of things.
Getting my folder before I can.
I've been dealing cards of the weekend, can you tell?
So what is this?
That's a search engine marketing report. One is the month of November, and then the other one that's double-sided is kind of like over time.
And these are the words over here, like visit St. John, or what? Or is this just what they're searching?
Yeah, so those are our AdWord groups. So Google has a program called AdWords, and they group certain things, like, for instance, like Microtel and In St. Jim, and all those would be under the AdWord group lodging. And then other stuff like historic houses and whatever.
Okay.
And these are basically also the bullet points that are on the website, also included in most of the advertising of the bullet points that we target to make sure people know all the variety of things they can do in St. Genevieve.
So from time to time, we review the specific keywords that are used on the search engine marketing and rotate out through the AdWords. We look at the ones that are most commonly searched and most commonly clicked on. And like we do things like spelling St. Genevieve with and without the E, you know, and Saint spelled out and abbreviated. Whatever we think people might type in to start their planning for a trip to St. Genevieve.
Was this very top one, is that this year?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other business before the board? Thank you so much, Sandra, for all your reports and everything. And thank you for everybody for your hard work on getting to this advertising started.
I move for adjournment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Move to adjourn.